it's going to take a lot more Red Bull than that to get through this one.
Never enough Red Bull.
No, never enough. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week 11, episode number 5 of The Sauce. You try to make that math make sense. Tyler Adele alongside Andrew Mucaria. We cannot thank you enough for joining us today. Notice how I seamlessly went through your last name for a change.
That's incredible, considering you haven't said it in weeks.
Yeah, I know. Also, I know we do have a new guest on the show today, Mrs. Puppy. I know we can't see her. I'm sure we will hear her. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
The dog.
Yeah, you'll hear her at some point. She's
all right.
She's chewing on shit.
Listen, that is what dogs do. That is also what I do if I have not been fed.
Very true.
All right. We have a lot to cover in, I don't know, like an hour and a half, give or take, based off of our two franchises. I use that very loosely right now. That could probably take up a good chunk of this. Really quickly, just starting with some news that broke Tuesday after the Penguins got absolutely mollywopped. If you are the individual that happens to be watching our podcast that stole all of Evgeny Malkin's rings, we hate you. And bring them back.
Return them.
Yes, bring them back. We don't like you. Those are irreplaceable, but that's probably also why they were taken, because they know that. On top of that, music to my ears came that night in the form of also the Penguins when the Pittsburgh Penguins finally acknowledged that Tristan Jarry is not a starting goaltender and waived him.
Gonna cue the clip of John Cena going ass.
Listen, have I not been saying that Tristan Jarry is not a starting goaltender since like episode 1 of the last show we did? I'm pretty sure
I went on your life motto.
I'm pretty sure I went on like a 20-minute tirade because he got elected to the All-Star game that year, and I wanted to throw my head through the TV.
Yeah, you almost turned it into like a religion of Tristan Jarry is not a starting goaltender, and apparently he's not a backup either.
I will never let the world forget it. So with those two little tidbits taken care of, I know there's a lot more going on around the league. We'll probably touch up on the Four Nations coming up in a couple more weeks because we're going to have to try to find a way to fill 2 weeks worth of content when that starts. We also have the trade deadline coming up, which I'm sure we're going to touch on a little bit more here and there. We'll probably bring it up when we talk about the league later.
A little bit, maybe a couple episodes down when I know if my team's buyer or a seller. In limbo right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, we already know where my team stands or where they should be standing.
Yeah, you're a perpetual seller that doesn't sell.
Oh, yeah, they're a lifetime seller that keeps forgetting to sell.
Well, have you heard about the wild card?
Yes, pretty much. Well, I'll get into that in a few minutes because I know that we're going to start with, for lack of better terms, absolutely blasting both of our teams into oblivion, because usually this is the part of the show where we say one nice thing about the Maple Leafs and one nice thing about the Devils. And we can't do that about either because we have no business making fun of people anymore.
Not at all.
So, in preparation to not be made fun of, I will say one nice thing about both of them with legitimacy, congratulating them for their season success so far, and to please be nice to us.
Please. We didn't know any better.
Which we both know is just not, it's not going to work. That's not how it happens.
No, Devils fans are ruthless.
So, with that being said, let's start with you, because I mean, listen, at least my team didn't have any expectations from the start. The Rangers' expectations going into the season were legitimate, like, I mean,
5 team in the league.
Yeah, legitimate top 5, like, very much so should have been in the Stanley Cup conversation, and they were. Now it's like a very legitimate, like, hey, top 5 draft pick is a real thing there. For now, I mean, I should say.
Yeah, for now. Luckily, they've been stepping it up recently.
Oh, so what in the blue hell happened in Manhattan?
Everything caught up to them, and all the wheels fell off the bus. I mean, I don't remember when our last episode was, but we started 12-6-1, but like it was a fake 12-6. If you asked any Ranger fan, they'd be like, "We're winning," but like, are we winning? They weren't, dominant games. There were flaws that were getting bailed out, and then all of a sudden, gone. Wheels off the bus. Bus crashed into a dumpster that was on fire and exploded. Nobody could score. Nobody could play defense. Nobody could play goalie, even though none of it was really our goalie's fault. We ended up losing. We went hit a stretch where we lost 15 of 20 or something like that. We couldn't beat the Blackhawks, and we couldn't beat literal scum.
Can't relate.
I think Mika's Zibanejad right now, out of 825 tracked players on plus minus, he's like 821st. He's on the rebound, but he couldn't play defense, which he was known for, being a defensive forward. He was dragging that whole line down. Chris Kreider had 1 assist up until, I think, a week ago. And we can't find a right winger to go on that line because it's always the right wing's fault why they're bad, right? I.e., traded Capo Caco, which don't get me started because he has 11 points in 14 games with the Kraken. Traded the good parts. Traded Jacob Trouba, cleared up cap space. Didn't make us any better. Trouba clearly wasn't a problem, but we have cap now.
I think it makes you better in 2 years from now, not now, though.
Yeah, exactly. Our second line has been our best line, but it has not been the absolute unit it was last year, that being the line of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. Obviously, Panarin's still on a point-per-game pace. He never won't be. But Trocheck has regressed this year decently. He's still a beast on faceoffs, but he hasn't been as much of an offensive presence as he was last year, which, to be fair, last year was a bit of an outlier with how good he was scoring. And then Laffy signed that big extension and hadn't done anything since, which a lot of people were getting on him, but the whole team's awful. So I'm not really going to drag him down there. I would like to now bring up a player known as Andre Miller, who
I knew it was coming too. Awesome.
Who honestly is confusing, and it's really difficult to talk about him because when he's on, he's so good. But man, does he make a lot of bad mistakes. Over the last couple games now, he's been pretty good, with the exception of the game against Dallas, where he single-handedly made us lose. But apparently his stats are pretty good. Those good old Corsi advanced stats that everyone loves, but the eyeball test ain't there. We have Adam Fox, who was also having a slow stretch. This is the whole theme of the rant, is that everybody was playing their worst hockey at the same time, with one exception, and that man's name is Mr. William Cooley. And boy, William, do I love you. But now we've gotten 4 points in the last 3 games. Could be getting better, hopefully. I will let you button for 5 minutes if you want, because I will keep going, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse.
I mean, I'll throw my outside looking in perspective at you if that's what you like. Regardless of how this season ends, I think it's one of those, like, even if you sneak into a wild card, or even you manage to push your way into a 3 seed this year, you almost can't not call the season still a failure.
Oh, it was awful.
Based off of I'm saying even if you make the playoffs at this point, you still almost have to call the season a failure. Like, there were legitimate, like I said before, like President's Trophy, again, was not outside of the conversation for your team again, based off of how everything went last year. I do think a lot of the Rangers' problem that kind of started the derailing is a lot of the problems they were having in the locker room and in the front office, or the front office having with people in the locker room. A lot of those problems going public did your team absolutely no favors.
Yeah, I agree.
Hello.
She's making an appearance. Say hi, Luna.
That dog is adorable, and I'm gonna steal it and trade it for. I'm gonna trade it for Malkin's Reigns. I also think it's like there's a lot of players, although I know they've been good Rangers, even last season with your President's Trophy season, that have kind of overstayed their welcome.
Yeah.
And are doing a little bit more harm than I feel like they're doing giving a little bit more harm than good to the franchise. Not by, contribution wise, but just, I guess, holding the team back a step. Like,
you say his name. His name is Mika Zibanejad.
Yeah, it's Zibanejad, and I also think it's Kreider. And like, they're just. I'm not saying that you need to trade them now. I mean, right now it's kind of.
We can't anyway.
Well, you can't, because no one's going to touch the Zibanejad contract,
and they have no move clauses.
And if you didn't trade Kreider and did the longest tenured Ranger on the team thing and stuff. I mean, listen, I lived through freaking Josh Bailey. I get it. Like, you get to a certain point where after a certain amount of years, loyalty is the only thing that matters anymore. Yeah. And I understand it. And then we told told Josh Bailey to eat a hot dog and send him to Chicago. But and it was one of the problems I pointed out last year, which nobody outside of this podcast would know because we didn't have a podcast last year. But when your backup and Quick was outplaying Shesterkin most of the season, and he was 37, already not a very great sign to begin with for the long haul, because a 37-year-old Jonathan Quick is not going to carry you through the playoffs anymore.
No, definitely not.
But you're 20, what is he, 28, 29?
Yeah.
You're a 28 or 29-year-old. Give me 12 million goalie. Can't. Problem. And the big one. Because you're 29. I mean, listen, granted, I can relate. I'm going to be 29 in a month. My knees are on fire all day. So I can only imagine what his knees feel like. But
superstar athlete.
I gotta be, again, from outside looking in, you, depending on what your plan is to develop off of this season, you almost can't not have a conversation about trading Panarin.
I don't like that idea, because if we were to retool, it wouldn't last very long, because our farm system is pretty good. We have a couple guys that we can call up and kind of fill holes.
Well, I also feel like very similar to with a Brock Nelson, and we'll get into that in a minute. Not comparing the two by all means. I'm not going there. But I know Panarin, you get one more year in his contract after this. Brock Nelson's going to be a UFA. You got to, if it's me, you almost have to maximize every asset and resource out of him that you're going to get. So if you don't see him on an extension after this contract,
yes,
you have to have the conversation.
If they need to talk to him now and see if there's this possibility for extension. If there's not, then 100% trade him. But ideally, we extend them.
That's the thing is, and I think it's not. I personally don't think the Rangers should be interested in an extension. I mean, listen, if they're going to pay him, I would understand completely why he would be interested. I don't think that the Rangers should have interest in an extension. I am a big believer in if it did not work the first time, it will not work the second time. I saw that. That was hilarious. If it does not work the first time around, an extra 4 years, an extra 3 years isn't going to make it work anymore.
I disagree on the Panarin thing. I want to keep him because he just had the best season of his career last year, and look what he did. I think he single-handedly reversed the cornholing that management did to Alexis Lafreniere's development.
Well, no, listen, but wanting to keep him and should keep him obviously aren't the same. I could totally understand wanting to keep him around, but use Toronto as an example. They're going into the last year of Tavares, and I'm not really going to bundle Marner into that, but you signed Tavares to a 7-year deal. What was it worth? 11 and a half or 11, something like that.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Which remember that was when players were first starting to break over that $10 million mark, and that contract was absolutely bananas when he got it. And what does Toronto have to show for it?
Yeah,
the exact same thing they had before it. First round playoff struggles. The only difference is they snuck a playoff appearance to the second round in there, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
If you're Toronto, you cannot justify bringing him back. And we both know Mitch Marner's going to be a 120-point player when the season's all said and done.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing for him. You cannot justify bringing him back. I feel like the Rangers would be in the same position with Panarin, even if you didn't trade him and he didn't come back into next summer 26, when he's a free agent. You know, like, I feel Keandre Miller is probably going to get beat up one day after a game in Manhattan, and you should all be very worried about him because he's not very good right now.
Correct.
I mean, there are things about your team that I have enjoyed. Panarin has been fun to watch, like always. You know, Fox has been pretty good for the last month or so. You know, going back.
He's been a little better. I mean, he was never bad. You know what? The thing about talking about some of these guys, they weren't bad. They just weren't up to their elite level, which was really being dragged down by the rest of the team.
Right.
Because people were shitting on Adam Fox. I'm like, all right, let's relax for a hot second.
You used the potty word. You're gonna get me fired.
Spank me.
Oh. Yeah. Well, listen, like you said, it's what you could be, and you've seen it with other teams. You could be the best team in the league in any sport if everybody is.
If they're all clicking, yeah.
Yeah. If everybody's terrible at the same time, you're boned. You're never going anywhere. Which is basically, and I'll transition over for you so I don't give you a heart attack. This is basically how my life has gone since about the third game of the season. I can give you the extended version of what my thoughts are and the short version, and I'm going to give you both. The short version. Oof.
Indeed.
So I know we're going to get into it a little bit more later, but our playoff prediction, I'm pretty sure I'm going to flash both of them real quick. Okay, yep, me and you. Okay, both. Good. So we were both on the same page.
Yeah.
But the Islanders were going to do the Islander thing and sneak into the wild card somehow, and so
everyone.
What bothers me is, did we swing and miss? And did we swing and miss pretty brutally?
Keep talking. I have to stop the dog from chewing on something.
Yeah, no, it's I'm trying to buffer my thoughts, but also trying to keep it clean. The Islanders have, oh boy, there was not really a ton of real expectation coming from the Islanders this year. Generally speaking, everybody thought kind of the same thing, that they would be out of it, kind of sneak around and float back in, sneak into a wild card towards the end, and kind of just get absolutely abused come playoff time again. And the complete opposite of that has happened. And instead of floating around the wild card like they had usually been and getting smoked in the first round, they've been getting smoked nightly since October. Like one of the stats we were talking about, I think it was yesterday, the last power play goal the Islanders scored, Juan Soto was still a free agent.
Yep.
Which is kind of a disgusting thought.
That's horrendous.
Dead last in the power play, dead last on the penalty kill, setting historically low numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what the problem I have with what it is for the most part?
Tell me.
When all is said and done, Patrick Waugh is going to be the fall guy for this.
Oh, 100%.
And I don't know if it's truly his fault, if he's just this bad of a coach, which is a trick question because we both know he's not. We've both seen his coaching in the major juniors.
Yep.
And listen, we've said it. I've said it since we were the Sunday sauce. This guy, Lou is just, in my opinion, so out of touch.
Yep.
With today's game. Listen, I'm very, very, very firmly under the belief that he cannot operate in the salary cap. He just can't do it.
All signs point to.
Well, listen, you look at the Devils' success through the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
He did not have salary caps. He could do kind of whatever he wanted. So giving Pierre Engvall a lifetime contract in 1999 doesn't burn him.
No.
But giving him a lifetime contract in 2024 or 2023, whenever he got it, basically put a bullet in the back of his franchise's head.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Again, I refuse to question Patrick Waugh and his coaching ability because we both know he is not the problem.
No.
There are things I'm willing to give. I mean, listen, there's plenty of things I'm willing to give him a hard time on. For example, if he is still the coach this summer, when training camp comes around, maybe just practice the power play for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right.
Again, but there's also like I'm not gonna blame him for the fact that you had like 8 of your starters injured from game number 4 till like Christmas. You know, remember Duclair got hurt almost immediately, did not play till like Christmas time.
Barzal missed a bunch of time too, right?
Same thing with Barzal.
He misses like 30 games a year anyway. But...
Yeah, Pellig was out again. Polak was out for like, I don't know, a week, but not I mean, long enough to not help.
Yeah.
It got bad enough to where Matt Martin had to be brought back.
Wild.
And I've said it to, I think I said it to you, but I've said it before. Between Martin and Clutterbuck, even though the correct answer is neither of them, Clutterbuck was the one who should have been brought back.
Yeah.
Because what's the one thing we all say about hockey, other than the fact that it's a silly sport?
No, silly.
The best type of ability is availability. That couldn't stand more true in any other sport than hockey. And Cal Clutterbuck at 36 or 37 last year had like 25 points, whatever, and played every single game, including the playoffs.
Yeah, you don't see that.
Matt Martin played like 55 games. That's the difference between 2 months.
And it's also why I've been saying for years that the Islanders should trade Matt Barzal. He's not it.
When push comes to shove, and now you're in a position now where your back is against the wall, there are, in my opinion, 3 people on the Islanders that are completely untouchable. You can't trade. Everybody else can be moved. Ilya Sorokin.
Yep.
Bo Horvat.
Yep.
Isaiah George.
I was almost going to say the same 3, but I was actually going to say Siplikov.
Okay. So I wouldn't trade Siplikov because he's only a rookie and he's having a pretty decent rookie year. Actually, I think he's not going to win the Calder. We both know that.
No, but I mean, he has 19 points.
But he'll finish top 5 in the voting. I don't think he gets first place votes. I don't think he's going to get second place votes either. I think he's going to get third, fourth, and fifth place votes up and down.
Yeah, that's completely reasonable.
So I'm not willing to trade him, but at the same time, like, I also don't want to be fooled by the rookie season. So, okay, so I'll say those 4: Siplikov, Horvat, Isaiah George, and Sorokin. If that name is not one of your names, you can be traded. And I think because we are, as of today, January the 16th, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're just under 2 months away from the trade deadline. In no particular order, Brock Nelson, Kyle Palmieri, and Noah Dobson all need to be gone by that day.
Yeah, I was going to say the downfall of Noah Dobson needs to be studied.
It's not even that Noah Dobson is a bad defender.
No.
This system if Patrick Waugh is not your guy, you can't trade Noah Dobson.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Because you have to see him flounder. You have to see him either flourish or flounder in the next guy's system.
Yeah.
So if they bring in a new coach next year, whatever you want to call it, and he can't play in that system either, he's got to go. But if Patrick Waugh is going to be your guy,
who does Dobson play D with? Who's his D partner? Mayfield?
No, actually, pretty steadily it's been Romanov. Oh, yeah, don't trade him either. It's pretty steadily been Romanov. I mean, it was Chara actually, I think Chara was his last steady D partner before they traded for Romanov, and that was because Dobson was still a rookie.
Yeah.
So
Dobson actually has the worst plus minus on the team out of everyone that has played at least 40 games.
Yeah, I believe it.
He probably kills a lot of penalties.
That's a really sad thought.
And except for Kyle Palmieri, who's the right minus 10. But I assume he's on your PK unit, so I'll let that
go. Kyle Palmieri is not on either of the special teams. Penalty kill or power play.
All right. He's Eureka's advantage. I got it. Except worse.
That's a polite way to say
it. Damn.
Listen, obviously, it goes without saying, Brock Nelson holds the highest trade value going into the deadline. I would be absolutely floored if we're sitting here on Tuesday, March 11th, after the weekend of the deadline, and we're not talking about the fact that he was traded. I would
Once again, as I say every year, most of this roster should be traded.
Well, this is the problem where, like we've said, the false hope and the false reality always comes back to this team. Kyle Palmieri last year gave you every justification to not trade him.
Yes, true.
I'm still waiting for Matt Barzal to justify not being traded. Still waiting. Bo Horvat is, in my opinion, he's the next captain after they ditch Lee.
That's fair.
And I think he's the closest thing you have to a captain right now, even with Lee on that team.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade Horvat's going to finish his career here, and I'm fine with it, regardless of if we win or not. I'm not willing to go after a guy like Duclair yet. It's been a year, and it's basically only been a quarter of a year because he was hurt most of the time.
He's only played 15 games. Huh?
Yeah, and he's 15 games, and let me guess, 8 points, 9 points,
6.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I mean. You average that out. What are they? 45 games in right now, give or take.
Yeah, just about.
So you average that out. He's probably sitting around 30 points.
He's about half a point per game, just under.
Yeah, so okay, so 45 games, so he's sitting around 27 points, whatever.
Yeah, roughly.
Fine with that.
I mean, considering the environment he's in, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, your team leader in points has 35 points.
Pajot, it's a damn shame what's happened to him, and it's not even his fault.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if the salary cap doesn't sit flat for 3 years, and I've said it 100 times, if the cap does not sit flat for 3 years, the $5 million he's making does not hurt, and it does not look bad, because that's what a third line player would be making. The fact that the cap didn't move, the fact that the cap didn't move, he's making $5 million, and you're obviously not getting $5 million of play out of him as far as the salary cap is concerned, makes it worse. Everybody forgets, if COVID doesn't happen and we don't have a flat cap for 3 seasons, this season the league would have been over $100 million in salary cap.
Yeah, you're right.
That means Pajot would take up, if we were at the projected $102.7 million for the season,
yeah,
Pajot would take up less than 5% of the team's cap. That's nothing. But now But now I'm pretty sure, and I'm assuming you're also doing what I'm about to do, and you're on Puckpedia.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to look right now, if I took a guess on Pajot, Pajot, if I had to guess, is probably 8% of the cap, give or take, just around that number.
Yeah.
I'm looking now. 7.7%.
You nailed it.
Yeah. 7.7%. Listen, this team needs to... They just need to... how do I say this? They need to sell everybody and just accept the fact that the next 2 seasons or so are going to be tough.
If they would have done that 5 years ago, you'd be.
It is what it is. Yeah, if they had done it 40 years ago, we would have been over it.
Yeah. What's funny is I just stumbled upon an article of 5 teams that make sense for Brock Nelson, and one of them might make your head explode.
Toronto.
Yeah. So it's the 5 teams are Toronto, Winnipeg, Minnesota, Dallas, and Colorado.
So, of those 5, I saw yesterday that Dallas already put a call in. I know they're interested.
Yeah, I was going to say Dallas to me makes the most sense because they're missing Sagan.
Toronto's been interested in Brock for like 2 years now. That doesn't surprise me.
They're interested in everybody.
Colorado, I could see only because they do need a little bit of help right now.
Yeah.
Winnipeg is the one to me that, depending on what you're like, if you're trying to make a trade out of Nelson, Winnipeg is the best place to send him. If you're just looking to sell him and just get what, the standard deadline price of a first round pick and maybe a second,
and whatever, yeah,
then you send him wherever you want. But here's the thing. You pay attention to the Jets of the last, I think, like maybe 2-3 weeks. They started, I believe they're 30-12-3. They're still just unreal. They are still looking to and openly willing to trade Nikolai Ehlers.
Oh, man. What a beauty.
I have a pending UFA center. They need a center. They have a pending UFA right winger. I have one of those. I need one of those.
This is true.
If you're looking to take a risk and try to get that guy to stay here, which I don't think he does, why not? What's the worst that can happen?
This other trade deadline article has all the Eastern Conference teams like classified into different. It says like the buyers, sellers, tire kicking. The Islanders are in their own hold for the love of God.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
The Islanders have been stuck in neutral, full stop.
Listen, they're in like hockey purgatory right now.
Yeah.
And the only thing the only thing that decides their fate for the rest of the season is literally either a trade or somebody getting fired.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, unfortunately.
But we've spent enough time talking about our misfits. Let's talk about other people's misfits.
Yay!
At the beginning of the season, this is kind of funny, because this is only episode 5, which means 4 episodes ago, we did our season predictions in the standings. Now, as we just said, every team is sitting somewhere, Mark, and you're gone. I'm gone too. There we go. So I'm looking at everybody. So every team is sitting between, let's see, they're sitting between that 41 and 45 games played.
Yep.
Give or take. So we're just about the halfway point of the season. And we're going to reflect back on our predictions, where everybody stands now, and I guess just make fun of each other.
I'm gonna need a drink.
Yeah, so you go first. So
just looking at this hurts me.
The common theme
I'm going through pain.
Well, the division, when I was doing this, the division that I'm willing to give us the most slack on is, believe it or not, our own division, because that division is going the complete opposite of the way we thought it was.
Yeah, none of it makes sense.
The only things that you predicted, and I believe I predicted, that stayed constant were the Devils and the Hurricanes were going to be there.
Yeah.
No one saw the Capitals coming.
They're the best team in hockey. Like, where did this come from?
Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw the Blue Jackets being in a wild card hunt. Everybody saw the Flyers being terrible, but they're being a little less terrible than we expected. And the Penguins are, you might owe them an apology.
I am gonna wait on that because I do genuinely think the Rangers end up above the Penguins and Flyers. It's just, do they get back to a playoff spot? I don't trust the Penguins or Flyers to not just completely, skid.
So I'm gonna say the only way the Rangers finish ahead of the Flyers and the Penguins is if they are legitimately still trying to get into the playoffs and they are not just going to seek out the pick.
Which is what I think they're going to do, as long as they don't go on another massive skid. Like if they can keep building momentum after the last 3 games, they're going to be maybe not a full-on buyer, but like a cautious buyer.
Yeah, like a smart, practical buyer.
Yeah.
The Atlantic, I guess outside the Red Wings, you did pretty well.
I'm so over the Red Wings. I'm over the Yzer plan. It's all done. They're garbage, and they will forever be garbage. I'm over them. I will never do this again because I've done it for the last 3 years.
But well, listen, believe me, when we get to the Atlantic on my end, I'm gonna owe you an apology too. I mean, listen, Maple Leafs and Panthers, that's a toss up that really is going to go and really can go any other way.
Yep.
Again, the Lightning, I'm pretty sure as of now they sit in the 3rd spot, but it's kind of like a 3rd spot by a technicality because they're in a tiebreaker with Boston, who Boston also.
The Sens are pretty hot right now.
The Senators can come in and screw this whole thing up.
They're only 2 points. Tampa and Boston both have 49 points. Ottawa has 47.
And if the Senators do sneak into the playoffs, another team you're really going to owe an apology to.
That, yes, I will. 100%.
Montreal is doing exactly what you said Montreal was going to do. And Buffalo.
And then
Central.
Buffalo.
And then Central, which both of us got hit the hardest in the Central.
Yeah. Thanks to Dallas for at least being in the top 3.
So the Jets just did unbelievable things to start the season, and they're still benefiting from it. Minnesota, again, very, very similar to the Capitals right now. Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah,
Dallas is Dallas. You knew they were going to be there. Colorado being in the wild card doesn't surprise me, but it does surprise me because they started the season very terribly, and they still definitely need a little bit of depth in their lineup.
They just, in the beginning of the year, they just had such bad goaltending. And apparently now Mackenzie Blackwood's doing the freaking Vezina.
Yeah, so with him, it's listen, you like we said with who was it? We said with Tampa.
Yep.
They'll easily be in the top 3 just as easily as they'll be a wild card. And the same really goes for Colorado. They can easily finish 2nd in the Central as they can finish in this wild card. Shout out to the Blues for definitely having a little bit of an overachieving year. I know we gave Utah a little bit. We both gave them a little bit more credit than they probably deserved. Just
they
because
started out hot, but...
Well, yeah, you have I don't want to say new team because it's the Coyotes, but you have that new city, new arena, new fans hype. You figured they'd ride that momentum wave. But I have to give them a lot of credit only because, yes, they're still finishing. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. They're finishing towards the bottom of the standings. But they have an ownership group that actually cares.
Yeah.
And they should not be hitting a panic button on anything.
No.
I would almost argue this was expected.
Yeah.
And, I don't think Utah's in a panic situation.
No, I mean they're 6 points out of a wild card spot. That's where I can see that ending up.
As far as panic buttons being hit, there's a panic button in Nashville that should be broken right now.
Disgusting.
You have a first-year general manager in Barry Trotz, who clearly is not a very good GM.
Yeah.
You brought in arguably one of the top 2 or 3 free agents last year in Steven Stamkos, and he has done a whole lot of nothing and then some for the Nashville Predators. If you look at Stamkos' stat line for the year, it's a little bit better now, 14-14, 28 through 43 games. He did not, I think it was almost 2 or 3 weeks before he scored his first goal. The Predators are going to have some work to do. I don't see a situation almost where they're not sellers at this deadline because they're going to need to figure something out. And then wrapping up the Central, Chicago.
Chicago.
moving to the Pacific. Again, it's a crapshoot division. The Oilers and Kings are exactly where you thought they were going to be. Again, the Golden Knights they can finish in the wild card just as easily as they'll finish them first. Yeah. You want to talk about a downfall on here? It's Vancouver, which we'll get into in a couple more minutes. And just absolutely shame on Seattle.
Yeah, it's not great.
The fact that you need to go into a rebuild in your third year.
You're under the Ducks.
Yeah, you're under the Ducks. You just need to pack it in. So I'll switch over to me, where it's not very pretty. We had identical Metros, with the exception of the Penguins.
Yeah.
So you might owe the Penguins an apology. I'm going to owe the Blue Jackets an apology. Again, the Atlantic, I made a very big mistake at number 4.
Yankees.
I really thought that the Sabres was fine. They were finally going to just shut everybody up and get through it, and them and the Red Wings just kicked me right in the face.
Yep.
Again, I'm pretty sure we had very similar Central divisions. Our Central divisions were also identical, and we're both eating it for that.
Thanks, Nashville.
I would like to say I'm pretty happy with my Pacific. Again, the Oilers can take the Pacific Division just as easily as anybody else. Obviously, I don't owe the Kraken don't owe me an apology, nor do I owe them one because I didn't have them making it to begin with. I might owe Calgary something though,
just a bit.
So, I guess to wrap up the show, I know yesterday we were talking about real and fake, and I don't think that's a fair way to assess teams. So I guess we'll call it contenders or pretenders because there are definitely some pretending playoff teams.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go through it division by division, and I guess we'll, just rattle ideas off of each other. We'll start in the Atlantic. I'm not going in any particular order here. I'm just going to knock out the teams that we know are boned. The Montreal, Detroit, and Buffalo, they're pretending. They're not going anywhere. Montreal, of those 3, though, if any of them is the team in the best shape.
Yeah, I agree.
Montreal was not expected to do. They were not expected to do a ton this year. They're not supposed to be in the playoffs. It probably would have been a bad situation for them to be in the playoffs this year, but they're showing you that they're finally moving in the right direction. This season is a tremendous step for them, as long as they don't bottom out and just free fall.
Yeah,
I think Ottawa's a pretender. Even if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, so here's the thing with them. It's not that they're pretenders because they can't have a playoff run. I think that they similar to Montreal. They just have there's things they need to do, trades they need to make, more players they need to sign before you can turn around and go like, hey, that's a team I don't want to play in the playoffs.
My issue it's not an issue calling them a pretender. It's just that I also think the 2 teams above them are also pretenders.
And I'm assuming the 2 teams above them we're talking about are Boston and Tampa.
Correct.
Okay, I have Boston as probably the biggest pretender in the league.
Yeah.
They should not be playing as bad as they are with that team. They're over 500 with a minus 22 goal differential, and they cannot score to save their lives. They're
Yeah,
3-6. They are 3-6-1 in their last 10. Granted, they just came off a 6-2 win.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure they played Seattle, so it doesn't even count.
They played. No, they beat Tampa.
Okay, so I'll count that one. But they need that. If that team's going to be considered a playoff contender, they need to be doing what last year's Bruins were, and they need to be scoring uncontrollably.
Yeah,
I'm going to give. I have to give Tampa contender status because it's a team that every year seems to lose another big piece and another big piece and another big piece. And they somehow manage to still stay in the fight and make a little noise in the playoffs. And the fact that they can still do that makes me believe that they're still a contending team. I don't think their window is completely closed. I think it's cracked. But they could listen. You could tell me that the Lightning are going to be in the conference finals this year, and I would believe it.
Yeah, you know what? I consider them a pretender only because the division they're in, the bottom half, is so weak, and I don't think they have a hope of beating Florida or Toronto in a playoff series, unless Toronto in the first round, maybe. But
fair. Florida is the easiest contender choice I had. The fact that no one expected them to really kind of have a back-to-back season based off of the salary cap issues they were having, and they're doing it. They're the easiest contender that I ever had to pick.
Yeah.
And Toronto, I got to make this make as much sense as I can. They will be pretenders until they are contenders.
That I understand. Yes, I understand. I get it.
For me to consider them even a contender in anything, listen, you got to have a playoff run where you get out of the first round. You got to have a playoff run where you go to the conference finals.
Yes.
Every year it's the same thing. Oh, they're up 3-1, they're up 3-2, and then you choke out the first round.
Yep.
And then a couple of years before that, they finally broke through to the second round. And I remember you and either we sent a text or we were doing the show back then at the time, and we were like, oh, Toronto made it out of the first round. That's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And they did diddly with it.
Nothing.
So, moving on to the Metro Division. Okay. We're going to lump the Islanders, the Rangers, the Penguins, and the Flyers all into one bulk statement. Ha!
Yeah, that's accurate.
Now, going forward. Columbus. I have them as contending pretenders.
Yeah, they're confusing because they score a lot, but they also give up a ton of goals, and goaltending and defense wins championships.
They have to win games 6-5.
Yeah.
5-4.
That's unsustainable.
They should not be where they are. They have pieces they need in their roster. They definitely listen. You can't even say they need depth. They need another top six forward. They need another bottom six forward. They need help on defense. The goaltending is the only thing they don't need to touch.
Yeah.
They could make the playoffs. I think it's a first round exit if they make the playoffs.
Yeah, they get rolled.
Well, again, let's be fair. They get rolled by anybody probably except Toronto. Toronto will roll over for them. Okay, this one's going to be a fun one. Carolina.
Pretender.
Thank you.
For so long have been the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Metro Division, And to quote Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, they can't keep getting away with it. They are the biggest pretenders in the league.
Right here. Pretenders, same season, different year, will have good regular season, but will not show up in the playoffs again.
It's
the only difference
it's
between
the
them and
same
Toronto.
thing.
The only difference between Carolina and Toronto is that Carolina can actually make it to the East Final.
Yeah, except they'll probably lose in the second round.
Yeah, fair enough. Like, if Carolina does not play the Islanders in the first round, they are not getting out of the first round.
It's crazy.
The Devils, they are contenders, and
I am trying to scratch and claw on the way to make them a pretender, but no, they're a contender.
Listen, what's the biggest thing we've been saying for the last 3 seasons?
Their goaltending.
Stay healthy, get a goalie. They're going to be a problem. They are healthy. They have a goalie. They are a problem.
Yeah.
And then wrapping it up, Washington. You almost
Pretender.
cannot call them a
Pretender. Nope, I won't stand for pretender.
Nope, contender.
They, all I'm going to say is Logan Thompson is not going to keep this up.
He might not. I'll agree with that. But the fact that they're doing this, no Backstrom, no Oshie, they did not. Ovechkin's leg broke for 4 weeks. They were expected to drop the pace they were on. The pace picked up further. Logan Thompson's 19-2-3.
It's ridiculous.
And I'm sure we're not the only ones here that checked in on the World Juniors over the Christmas breaks. But the fact that they're doing this, they have prospects that killed it at juniors, some of which are expected to be making the big club next year. This is horrifying to see from the Capitals. They're going to run the division again.
I know. I cannot see guys like Alexei Protas and what's his name, Connor McMichael, continuing to be at a 0.75 point per game pace. I can't see it continue.
I'm telling you, it's going to continue.
And Dylan Strome at a point per game, I will give them props on their gamble on PLD because that's working out really well. Good for PLD too.
So the Central is probably the hardest one to do. Chicago, I'm not even giving them a rating because it's not even honestly, it's not even because it's Chicago. It's just they're a good young team. They need to get younger and ditch guys like Foligno and Hall, and they need to find a franchise goalie in the worst possible way.
Yeah, and then when they pair up Bedard and James Higgins, we'll see how that works.
It makes me sick thinking that they're going to get I wrote potty mouth words next to the Predator's name, and I can't say those, so it goes for itself. Utah, again, they're pretending it's the first year of hype. It's the new city. It's the new fans. It's the new arena. It's the best. Listen, this is a great step in the right direction for that franchise. Again, like we were saying before, they have ownership that actually cares and wants to be good and wants to win. If they didn't want to be good and they didn't want to win, they don't make trades for Miguel Sergachev. They don't make they don't make other key signings. This is a very big step in the right direction for them, but they're still pretending.
Yeah, they are on the road to contendership.
St. Louis is, I feel like it's the same thing. They're pretending. They need to. If they become conservative buyers at the deadline, they do have a legitimate chance to sneak in.
They could, yeah.
But I think, again, they have an age problem there. They have guys who have been there for a while that need to go.
Yeah.
And they, like They are, and it sucks to say because we thought like 2 years ago the St. Louis Blues were about to go into a full rebuild.
Yeah.
And they were kind of just like, huh, that's cute. And then didn't. Colorado is very hard to call a pretender or a contender. Because like we said before, I could very easily see them missing the playoffs. I could very easily see them climbing up the standings and winning the division. It's Colorado.
It all depends on what Mackenzie Wood continues to do.
The thing with Colorado is you look at the schedule now, and Colorado is not a scheduled L for teams anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, 4 games into the season, the Islanders beat them 6-2. If the Islanders can beat you 6-2, yeah. If the Islanders can beat you 6-2, you have a problem.
I mean, then when you have Nathan McKinnon who has 70 points in 45 games, Jesus,
which is disgusting. Dallas,
contender.
It's tough because I feel like they're that Central Division Toronto where they're always there but can't break through. But listen, Wyatt Johnston, Jason Roberts, like you can't not call this team contenders.
No, that lineup, they're deep as hell. They're legit.
You have to hope that Tyler Sagan's injury is not going to be the downfall of this team because he's on the IR right now.
That's why Brock Nelson's going to end up there.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Dallas is going to start playing the salary cap game. You won't see Sagan again until the playoffs. They're going to have a nice Bork on their team. That's just how this is going to go.
Yep.
Minnesota.
Pretend. Toronto.
Yep, pretending. Listen, again, we've seen this from Minnesota before. They have a great regular season, and then they get blasted in the first round.
Yep.
The only difference is this year, I don't think they get blasted in the first round. I think they get
I can see them advantage.
I think they get blasted.
I end up playing Dallas.
Yes. Winnipeg. Okay, so 2 months ago, in the heat of their season opening tear, I would have called them pretenders, and I would not have taken an acceptable answer otherwise. The fact that they have come back down to earth, but have still kept a winning pace, it compels me more to put them in contender.
I can't not say. I mean, Connor Hellebuck is an absolute machine. I've been saying for years that Kyle Connor is one of the most underrated players in hockey when he wants to win, and it seems like he wants to win all year this time.
Kyle Connor is a beauty, and he's like the best 9th round fantasy hockey draft pick you could possibly get.
He's so good.
Everybody forgets about him.
Yep.
So, yeah, like again, with Winnipeg, it's just if they did not come back down to earth and they didn't forget how to lose and they didn't keep the pace of a winning team that they had, I would not have bought for a second that they were going to be contenders.
Yeah.
And they would have their steam would have blown out. They would have never recovered.
Agree.
And our last and final division, in my eyes, it's the easiest one to do. Sharks.
Bad. Celebrini. I'm going to classify them as Celebrini.
Yeah, Sharks. Seattle. Again, you're 3 years into your franchise or 4 years in, however long it's been, and you're already looking at having to possibly rebuild. You're pretending. Go away.
Although I will say their trade for Capo Caco is going to work out real well for them. It's going to make me cry.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be similar to Buchnevich. That trade is going to sting.
Yep.
The Ducks are unfortunate pretenders. They've definitely taken a step forward this year, and you can see they're playing a little bit more of a complete game.
They're a mini Utah hockey club. They're doing the right thing on a smaller level.
And all under the leadership of Anaheim Ducks captain Radko Gudas, which is still not a sentence that should be existing.
Listen, when you have Gudas and Trouba on the same team, teams don't want to mess with you.
Listen, it works. So
yeah.
Okay. Vancouver.
Big poopy garbage.
Pretenders. Listen, for Vancouver to have any chance at salvaging the season, they need to figure out what's going on between Pettersson and JT Miller, and they need to do it like today.
One or both of them is gone at the deadline.
So here's the thing. How do I say this? If you trade both of them, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
You can't, as a franchise, you can't afford to lose them both. Unless this situation is beyond fixing and repairing internally, you need to pick which one of them is staying. And if I had to pick, Pettersson's the one that gets traded.
Pettersson is the one I'd rather keep, but he's also the easiest to trade.
He's going to be the easier to trade. He's going to be the easiest to trade because he'll bring you the best return because of the term he has left on that deal, and you're not going to get stuck with any of that money.
Yeah.
JT Miller, let's just say he has a history of this.
Yeah.
Nobody's taking him.
No.
I got to put my bias in. I got to throw my bias little hat in the ring for this. If any team is going to make a push and spend the money or spend the capital to get a Pettersson on their team, it cannot not be the Islanders.
Listen, I said the same thing. If JT Miller ends up on the Rangers, I'm going to be mad.
No, I'm saying like the Islanders, if anybody trades for Pettersson, it has to be them.
Oh, okay.
Because, and this is I was just talking about this at work the other day. It's something that needs to be very understood before people dive into this. You're going to trade for Pettersson. You're going to give up quite a few draft picks. You're going to lose a roster player. You're going to get Pettersson and his full contract for the next 7 years after this.
Yeah.
He's going to be making $11.6 million a year. What people, and it really, it's not even an Islander thing. It's an anybody who trades for him thing. Whoever trades for him, more so the Islanders in this situation, needs to understand if you make this trade, that is your big move this summer. You cannot afford to make another move. That is a big price tag to bring in.
Yeah, you're right.
So you're the first one, firsthand. We sit on our thumbs all summer, all off season. We do nothing. And it drives me absolutely insane. If they made a Pettersson trade, I can't say a word about it this summer. Yeah. This is going to be their move because you have to have money for your RFAs. You have to have money for Holmstrom, who's had a decent season this year. It finally looks like he's figuring it out. You have to have RFA money for Siplikov. You have to have RFA money for Romanov, and I'm just hoping that the RFA money you need to give to Dobson is going to be somebody else's problem. Yeah. I spent enough time on them.
Take a breath.
Flames, Pretenders.
They're
going to miss the playoffs in the last 2 weeks of the season. They don't have experience playoff goaltending. The one good thing Calgary does have going forward, if you look at their stats from top to bottom, they are a very well-balanced scoring team. That
is true.
Everybody contributes.
That is true.
So you can almost overlook the inexperienced goaltending. But, I mean, listen, if you run into a team like Edmonton in the conference finals, how much can you really overlook that?
Yeah.
The Kings are pretender-ish.
Yeah, they're interesting.
because they can compete. They have been competing. They will make the playoffs. They definitely need some help on defense.
Yep.
And they definitely need help in their bottom six. Their
And
bottom six.
Yeah, because you got to expect their goaltending is going to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect, but David Riddish and Darcy Kemper are just not going to completely lock down the fort right now.
No, I mean, they right now have a combined like 2.3 goals against them. So it's not going to stay that way.
Right. Edmonton, say it with me on 3. 1, 2, 3, contender. Like, that's the
easy enough.
I think they're more than likely going to repeat and go to the West Finals, to the conference finals again. Cup finals. They can definitely use some bottom six help, because if you look at the Edmonton Oilers player stats right now, it is McDavid, it is Draisaitl, it is Hyman, it is Nugent Hopkins, and then there's everybody.
They do be top heavy.
I think, again, I'm totally going to throw my bias in the hat there just because I'm begging for something to happen at this point. But I think, believe it or not, a Kyle Palmieri helps them in their bottom six on the third line.
Sure.
Listen, I'm trying to sell my people here.
Yeah, I know. Hey, man, I'm not going to say it won't help them.
And then Vegas, it's hard not to call Vegas a contender because they're going to manipulate the cap somehow, and they're going to end up with a $130 million roster in the playoffs.
Listen, even if they went in the playoffs with the roster they have right now, I'm still scared of them.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did the early 2010s Kings Blackhawks trade off for 5 years. And we go Vegas, Florida, Vegas, Florida, Vegas, Florida.
Yeah, honestly.
The only thing that would make that fun, though, is the fact that they can actually play each other.
Yeah.
Every year. Listen, I think we both know that the CBA is coming. I think it's coming in a year or two.
Yes, in 2 years.
That cap nonsense needs to be figured out.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Because Vegas is going to do it again. We both just discussed how Dallas is probably going to do it if they swing a Brock Nelson trade.
Mm-hmm.
Like, figure it out.
I mean, Mark's on. It's almost his time to go on LTIR next month.
Yeah, I was actually about to say, I'm pretty sure today's the 16th, so he's like 3 weeks out. He's almost due.
I think he was just on standard IR.
I don't know. I don't know. They've had LTIR approved. I don't know if that's even the right way to say that. That sounded really mean. Let's see. They have nobody hurt right now. Nobody on long term.
Incredible.
Yeah, listen, Eichel is his neck is due to vanish again.
Yeah.
Oh, there is. It's crazy. We've been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we've barely made a freaking dent in what's going on in this league right now. That's the sick part.
Listen, we can't be here for 4 hours.
I mean, we can, but we both have sponsibilities.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Well, I mean, listen, the good thing is that we always have this coming Tuesday to do it again.
Yay! Actually,
yay! For real. I hope.
Not like February 20th or anything.
Yeah, hopefully not. All right. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm sure people are sick of hearing from us and they want to go back to work.
Yes.
All right. As always, well, as sometimes until we do this a little bit more regularly, Tyler Dell, alongside Andrew Micario, we cannot thank you enough for spending part of your Thursday with us. Listen, just don't take anything we say seriously. We're just two guys. Like go like as soon as you're done listening to this, go to like somebody else and like read an article. Or we probably just copy and pasted a lot of what they said out of our own mouths anyway.
Eating a bunch of nerds.
We're not smart enough to correct opinions. Yeah, we just play video games and collect a paycheck. So just go listen to smart people, and then come back to us so you can make fun of us.
Yeah, we gotta level out. You know?
Until next time, friends.